Good morning everyone and welcome to my presentation on marine insurance. Today we will examine the case of Frederica and Molly and their potential claim of insurance over goods to be transported across the Great Australian Bight. Here's a quick layout of the facts. Molly and Frederica are aware of a carrying vessel which is moving fully loaded into the Great Australian Bight. They are keen followers of the shipping news and know the seas in the Great Australian Bight are dangerous. Many ships have grounded in the waters, and they calculate that there is an 8 out of 10 chance the vessel will sink. On this basis, they contact an insurance broker and insure the cargo on the vessel. Now the ship is grounded off the coast of South Australia. We must ask, given the limited facts, did they successfully take out a marine insurance policy? First, let's explore what a policy of marine insurance is. While Australia's Marine Insurance Act of 1909 is not a comprehensive regime for regulating marine insurance, it does lay out the purpose and required legal principles which govern policies. Section 7 of the Act defines marine insurance as that which protects parties in their cargo from the losses incident to lawful marine adventure. Marine adventure is defined in the Act as where insurable property, being the ship, goods, or movables, are exposed to maritime perils. These perils are those which are consequent on or incidental to the navigation of the sea, including fire, war, pirates, thieves, captures, seizures, and so on. While the subject of this provision may seem unapplicable to modern cargo transport, perils of the sea have been interpreted in a body of modern case law. Perils of the sea have been defined and redefined in a number of international jurisdictions. The case of P. Samuel & Co. v. Dumas is commonly relied on in Australian courts. The House of Lords excluded the ordinary action of the wind and the waves from the definition of perils of the sea. Hence, in a context of marine insurance, parties may not be indemnified against commonly occurring weather conditions. Australian courts in the case of Great China Metal Industries versus Malaysian International Shipping Corp, or the Bunga Saroa case, further define the meanings of perils of the sea in an Australian jurisdiction. Similar to Molly and Frederica, the Bunga Saroa ship experienced severe damage to goods in the Great Australian Bight. The trial judge in the case ruled that the extreme heavy weather encountered by the ship did in fact constitute a peril, and this decision was upheld on appeal and in the High Court. They concluded that perils are those which cannot be reasonably guarded against. They also ruled that perils need not be unforeseen, which is a more lenient take than many international courts, including the US and Canada. So, considering the definitions in the Act and the succeeding precedent, Molly and Frederica are indemnifying themselves against the loss of insurable property or cargo from marine perils, including the extraordinary actions of the sea in the Great Australian Bight. Hence, if Molly and Frederica wish to claim on their insurance, the success of their claim would be contingent on whether the seas which grounded the vessel were out of the ordinary and could not be reasonably guarded against. The facts suggest the seas in the Great Australian Bight were normally dangerous and known for grounding ships. This complicates a finding of peril. Does the commonality of rough seas in the Bight limit their potential claim? In line with the Bunga Saroa case, let's assume that the sea was so extraordinary that no action could have reasonably prevented the ship from sinking. Molly and Frederica would prima facie be able to claim for the loss of cargo on the vessel. Although there are further formalities required to invoke a policy of marine insurance successfully, and as insinuated by the facts in Molly and Frederica's case, they may fail to uphold some of these formalities. The first formality required by the Act is that the assured party must have an insurable interest. So what does this mean? Section 11 of the Act defines this interest as parties which hold a legal or equitable relation to the adventure or to any insurable property at risk, whereby they benefit from its due arrival or are prejudiced by its loss or damage. This interest must also exist at the time the loss or damage occurs. This seems straightforward, that in order to withdraw insurance, you must have a clear interest in the cargo. Well, it wasn't always this way. As the popularity of marine insurance grew in the early 16th century, incidences of wagering on the downfalls of marine adventures increased, meaning people would insure cargo in which they had no legal or equitable interest in as a form of gambling. As a result, the principle of insurable interest was codified in early legislation to limit those who could claim. Interestingly, the facts are silent on whether Molly or Frederica have any interest in the cargo or the ship moving across the Great Australian Bight. For all we know, they could be the likes of 16th century gamblers. In determining whether they are able to insure the cargo, we must first know what their interest in the cargo is. Let's progress assuming that they were the legal owner of the cargo. Another formality required by the Act is that Molly and Frederica must contract with their insurer with the utmost good faith. Section 23 of the Marine Insurance Act requires that the insurance be uberrime fide, which notes the contract for insurance shall be avoided if found that parties have not contracted in good faith. This concept of utmost good faith is generally held to mean the highest duty of disclosure. Section 24 of the Act defined the nature of disclosures by the assured and includes every material circumstance known by the assured which ought to be known by the insurer. This is far-reaching, and any non-disclosure which induced the insurer into contracting will rule the contract voidable. So, as Molly and Frederica had knowledge of the 8 out of 10 chance of the ship sinking in the Great Australian Bight, we must ask, did they disclose this information to their insurer? Once again, the facts are silent on this matter. Molly and Frederica would have to disclose the 80% chance before applying for a policy, and a failure to do so would give the broker the option to deny any claim for the loss of cargo. It is arguable that the 80% risk would be too high for an insurer to issue a policy. So the fact that they did insure the cargo suggests that the broker was induced into the contract by a non-disclosure, meaning that they were unaware of the 80% risk. Again, more information is required to shed light on this. Hence, we can see that a claim of marine insurance is complicated and has been the cause of dispute in both Australian and international jurisdictions. Molly and Frederica's potential claim rests on a range of contingencies, the 3 main ones including: was the sea which grounded the vessel in the Great Australian Bight so extraordinary that it might be considered a peril of the sea which may be indemnified by marine insurance? The next one: did Molly and Frederica have an equitable or legal interest in the cargo, or were they merely gamblers? Finally, did Molly and Frederica disclose their knowledge of the 80% chance that the ship would ground and contract with their broker with the utmost good faith? These are all questions which determine whether Molly and Frederica successfully withdrew a policy of marine insurance and whether they might be compensated for the loss of the cargo. Without answering these questions, no determinative answer can be given. So, to finish, let me ask you, do you think Molly and Frederica successfully insured the cargo? I'm not convinced.